Hey everyone, welcome back.
Hi, this is My Thing, Your Thing. My name is Hannah.
And I'm Donovan.
And this week it's My Thing!
Yay!
We have been recording a bunch of these to kind of have a bank. And so mostly what we've been doing is the James Bond movies because Donovan knows what he wanted his thing to be.
Yeah, and also there are 25 of them shits.
There are 25 of them shits, and we've got like the anniversary collection, so we can just like...
we just plow through them real easy, yeah.
So I was trying to find things that I wanted to talk about, and I found one.
Yeah, and this is about diametrically opposite to James Bond as possible.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. So here's my little preamble for this.
Yeah.
I was not a horse girl growing up. We were too poor for riding lessons. I couldn't be a horse girl. I was also not a wolf girl because they just weren't that interesting to me. There was a summer where I was a Greek gods girl, and my sister and I made a bunch of little mini altars to the Greek gods out of like clementine cases back when they came in those the particle board wooden cases. We probably still have some of them around somewhere.
Audience, you cannot see the look on my face right now of just like I'm with a nerd. Like and it's a beautiful thing because sometimes I think about the nerdy shit that I did as a kid and I'm like, man, no one would ever love someone who did that. And then I hear things like that and I'm like, oh, yeah, you know what? That's all right.
But I was, and I always will be, a unicorn girl.
Oh, unicorn girls and horse girls are related.
There's a distinction, but yes.
What is that distinction?
The distinction is that I never got to ride a fucking unicorn, Donovan.
You didn't get to ride a horse either.
No, but still, horse girls can they can live out the horse girl dream of riding horses and being near them. I never got to experience unicorns, except I did with the movie that we're watching, The Last Unicorn.
Wow! What a fucking segue.
I know, right? So The Last Unicorn is a 1982 animated movie based on the book by the same name by Peter S. Beagle.
Okay.
The book came out in 1968. So, it was quite a while before they made this movie.
Sure.
And the book was wildly successful.
Yeah.
Up until, 2007, when they did, a collector's edition kind of thing, they sold about 6 million copies worldwide, and it was translated into 25 different languages.
That's as many languages as there are James Bond films.
One for each.
One for each.
So, writing off of the success of the book, Beagle's agent approached a few studios to be like, "Hey, do you want to buy the movie rights for this and make a movie out of it?" And there were a couple of people who were like, "No, not really our thing." And then there was one studio who was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." But it was the studio that did the Peanuts holiday specials.
Yeah.
And someone in the orbit of that conversation looked at Peter S. Beagle and was like, "That's a bad idea. Don't let them do that." So he was like, "No, please, thank you."
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
So they convinced him that was just not a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, though, the producer secured a deal with the New York studio, Rankin Bass.
Hey, Rankin Bass.
Beagle was horrified at this because at this point the studio is most well known for their holiday specials.
Yeah.
And the two most recent movies that they had put out were Pinocchio's Christmas and The Leprechaun's Christmas Gold.
Okay. I have seen before that I had thought I had seen every Rankin Bass holiday special. I have not heard of either of those two, so obviously I have not seen all of them.
Yeah, I literally have it in my script. Yeah, I don't know those either.
Yeah. That's completely wild. Because, Jack Frost sucks, but, people have seen, ABC Family would still play that shit.
Yeah. So, yeah, Beagle was not very happy about this, but, at this point, he kind of just wanted the movie made.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Also, as a mark in their favor of Rankin Bass, they also did the animated Lord of the Rings movie and The Return of the King. So, there was some amount of, they can do fantasy animated movie stuff here.
Rankin Bass had done some really good stuff. Don't get me wrong.
I am very interested to see how much of this movie I remember because I haven't seen it since I was a kid, although I definitely watched it many, many times when I was a kid. My family would do this thing where on Friday night we would go to Blockbuster and get movies and then we would get pizza. And Blockbuster had a thing where you could get 3 movies for a special price or whatever. I don't remember. So we would get 2 kids movies and a grown-up movie. And so that meant that me and my 2 sisters, so 3 children, had to agree on 2 movies.
Ooh,
yeah.
Rough.
I don't know if I actually want to do this episode, but we definitely made my dad and my mom watch this really shitty 80s cartoon cartoon called Lady Lovelocks like 3 weeks in a row. Because they had, like, Blockbuster had a collection of the VHS that was, like, 4 episodes or something, and we got those, and I swear to God, there was 1 month where we got it every single Friday, and my dad just had to suffer with that.
You know, it's funny, because you're only a couple of years older than I am, but by the time I really remember Blockbuster, like, I remember it existing, but I remember it already kind of being on its last legs.
Really?
Like, yeah, I don't really remember ever being like, yeah, Blockbuster. I remember by the time I was, like, aware of Blockbuster as a concept, it was already like, ooh, Blockbuster's not doing too well.
Well, also, like, we were going to, like, there was a Blockbuster where the Goodwill is now, and, like, so that was really close to where I lived.
Yeah.
And so it was there for a really long, like, I don't know when that went in, but, like, it was there, I think, for, like, my entire childhood.
Yeah.
And so we were going there when we were really young. In fact, my dad still has them. There was this time where this company called Kidprint came to Blockbuster. And so what they did is they, like, did a quick little, like, VHS recording of a child talking, holding a card that had their, like vital statistics on it of, like, name and birth date and, like, hair color and eye color. So that if your child ever got snatched, you could show that video to the police and be like, this is what my kid looks like.
Wow.
And, yeah.
How troubling.
I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, we were like 3, 5, and 9 probably. Like, that seems roughly the ages.
Yeah.
So, like, we were going there from when I was very young. And my dad still has those VHSs, and he will definitely whip them out for you at some point.
I'm sure. I would love to see him.
He just needs a VHS player.
Yeah. Last Unicorn is one of the films that you guys would get.
Last Unicorns is one of the films that we would get a lot. I never had it on VHS, but once we, like, got, like, DVDs, I don't remember when I got, like, the copy that I have now, but I'm pretty sure it was, like, past when I was like, oh, I'm too ironic for this teenagerhood, like, probably in, like, early 20s maybe. Someone would have been like, oh my God, do you remember this from your childhood? And I was like, oh my God, I do. And then I didn't watch it until now.
I will tell you right now, and this is why we're doing this, I've never seen this movie. I basically know nothing about it other than the fact that it's about unicorns, and that, like, the fact that it's a fantasy Rankin Bass special, or, like, Rankin Bass film, the fact that I have not seen it is kind of crazy. But
yeah.
I should mention, and I think I've mentioned this before, I was not really into, like, fantasy as a kid.
Sure.
You know, like, I liked Harry Potter because, you know, every kid my age, I think when the first movie came out, I was the age that Harry Potter would be if he was going to first year in Hogwarts or whatever.
Aww.
And so, you know, as a kid, that was, like, awesome and great. And I was very sad when I did not get the letter.
Of course.
As it turns out, it's fake. It's a tough thing to learn when you're 11. But I never even really knew about The Last Unicorn. And I imagine that it was probably because I was a boy. You know,
sure. It is a fairly girly movie.
Yeah.
Especially, like, the way that it's marketed. There's definitely some spooky, scary stuff.
Sure.
But I'm surprised that I watched it as many times as I did as a kid. And, like, there's a scene towards the end that is, like, I'm pretty sure I watched it with, like, my eyes half closed several times.
Yeah.
Because it was wolf. We'll get there. Wolf. But yeah, it's very, like, pastel girl, especially the marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it really does hit you when you're a kid, especially as a kid who grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s. You know, it's like masculinity was a big thing. And so, you know, watching a movie that had a unicorn in it, oh boy, if I told that to the kids on the playground, I would have gotten my ass kicked.
Sure.
That's just kind of what happens. You know, it was cool to like Lord of the Rings because you had swords and you could like fight and stuff, but like a unicorn? Come on. What are you watching? My Little Pony?
Right.
Which, you know, no, I would be older when I watched My Little Pony.
Okay, so Rankin Bass did the story, and they recorded all of the vocals for the movie. Yeah. But the actual animation was done at a Japanese studio that they had worked with previously, Toei Animation.
Hey! I know them.
Yeah, they've known now for a bunch of stuff from the 80s, like Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon and et cetera, et cetera. They have like a long list of accolades.
That classic, if you are a fan of anime from that era, from like the late 80s into the 90s, sort of, you know, like if you know the anime from that era, that is that studio.
Yeah.
That visual style is very distinct.
So also a core group of animators that worked on this movie would later be hired by Hayao Miyazaki.
Oh, yeah!
To work on Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, my favorite Ghibli movie.
Oh, fuck. That's awesome. Okay.
And then they would also be members of Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
And so while Beagle was really concerned that Rankin Bass was making the movie because he knew them for like the holiday specials.
Sure.
The movie that ended up with, he was apparently very pleased with.
Yeah.
And he also praised it for sticking really closely to the story and even the dialogue in the book.
Yeah.
So
there's a certain school of thought that like anytime a movie changes a book, it gets worse.
Sure.
I do not subscribe to that. I personally think that films and novels and short stories and all that kind of stuff, they're all different mediums. They all have to accomplish different things in the media that they exist in.
Yeah.
I am not one of those people who's just like, oh, they changed it from the books. However, when an author who understands their story through and through, they understand the themes, they understand everything that it's about.
Yeah.
And they watch it and they say this stayed really true to it, even if it's not a one-to-one thing, but like staying true to the core like concepts.
Yes.
True. I think that that's a really valuable thing. And you know, when an author says stuff like that, I'm sure it's really high praise.
I definitely remember in middle school, like doing like a couple of exercises where we'd read a book and then we'd watch the movie based on the book. And like our teacher would hand us handouts and be like, write down all the things that are different from the movie to the book.
Yeah.
And I wish instead of doing that, like this would obviously be difficult to do with a bunch of middle schoolers, but I wish instead of doing that, there had been something about like, is this change in the story more effective for a visual format versus a written format?
Yep. A bit of a tangent here, but I read Pride and Prejudice when I was a kid, and then I watched the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice, and I hated the book because I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, it's supposed to be kind of funny.
Yep.
Like I didn't really get that when I was reading the book because, you know, it's old stuffy literary fiction. If you're, you know, a kid, you have no idea what this is about. And then I watched it, I'm like, oh, it's kind of the like a romantic comedy of its era.
Honestly, there should be more books, especially like kind of historical books that have like notes that you can read at the end of being like, this is a joke because of this thing.
Yeah.
I read Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, and it like every single page was annotated, and you could like flip to the back and they'd be like, okay, so this is satirizing this very specific thing that happened in British Parliament at this year. And it was great. It was wonderful. I loved it.
Yes, the one giant member of Parliament was tied down, and all the other smaller members of Parliament. That is not what actually happened.
No, but there was a whole thing about cracking the eggs on the small side or the big side, and that was like a thing about like, should we do this in Parliament or should we do this in Parliament?
Oh,
and
Christ.
like, there's also a whole thing about like people wearing like 1-inch heels and 2-inch heels. It's read Gulliver's Travels, man. It's a wild read, but get an annotated copy that's going to explain all the jokes to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, I will talk more about the cast after the movie, after you watch it. However, this is a stacked fucking cast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it includes Alan Arkin, Jeff Bridges, Mia Farrow, Angela Lansbury, and Christopher Lee.
Yeah. I mean, God, first of all, we're going to talk about Christopher Lee in something else really soon.
Oh, yeah.
He's in a James Bond movie coming up not far from now. But also, like, goddamn, that's a great cast.
Yes.
Already. Just
Yes,
those 5. Fantastic. And also, I mean, Christopher Lee, like, my God, that guy's voice.
So one last note really quickly is that the soundtrack was composed by a guy named Jimmy Webb, who was famous for composing a bunch of songs for a bunch of people. I looked at his Wikipedia page to like try and pull a couple of things.
Yeah.
No, there was too much. He did Wichita Lineman, and he did just hang on. Give me 1 second to actually pull.
Yeah, please bring up the list. I'm fascinated. Learning about obscure music people is a fascination of mine.
Just straight down the line on his Wikipedia page, numerous platinum selling songs including Up, Up and Away, By the Time I Get to Phoenix, MacArthur Park, Wichita Lineman, The Worst That Could Happen, Galveston, and All I Know.
Yeah, MacArthur Park and Wichita Lineman I know of very well, mostly because of the MacArthur Park Jurassic Park parody from Weird Al.
Fair.
Yeah.
And he also had a bunch of collaborations with a bunch of people like Glenn Campbell, Linda Ronstadt, The Supremes, Art Garfunkel, Carly Simon. Like, this guy's done a bunch of work.
Art Garfunkel, man, the second most talented guy in Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh, so mean.
It's not mean at all. Look, you put 10 people in a room with, you know, Paul Simon, and everyone else is going to be less talented than Paul Simon.
Totally fair. He has won a bunch of Grammys, a bunch of like national arts awards, whole bunch of stuff. Songwriter Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, no, that's all really impressive.
Yeah. And then also the band America, known for Ventura Highway.
Yeah.
And goddamn that other song that I can't remember at the moment.
Riding Through the Desert.
Yeah. Horse with No Name. I thought that there was a second song by them that I knew, but I'm not seeing it. Anyway, I'm really excited to watch this movie with you and see what you think and see how much I remember and see how much I like it after not having watched it since I was a tiny child.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I don't know anything about this, but I know people really consider it highly as a classic.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
It's such a sunny day, such a sunny day, such a sunny day away away.
And we're back.
We are back.
Right at the end there.
Yeah.
Donovan's PS5 refused to give up the ghost.
Yeah.
The ghost being the DVD copy of Last Unicorn.
I got stuck. I had to use tweezers to pull them out. That had never happened before.
It's never happened before, and we tested it, and it's not doing that with the other Bond Blu-rays that we have.
No, it didn't do it with the PS5 games either. It's just your shitty DVD copy of The Last Unicorn that fucked it up.
Which, before we actually talk about the movie, I want to get into this really quickly because this is a good segue for that.
Yeah.
So, this movie was made, people went and saw it. They could see it in theaters. Then it came out on VHS. I watched it on VHS.
Yeah.
At Blockbuster. So the first transfer to DVD was in 2004, but it was a really poor quality pan and scan from a VHS in like TV definition.
Yes.
I'm so bad at remembering the numbers for what the ratio is.
I think it's 480.
Yes.
Yeah, 480.
And so that was the first DVD in 2004. Then for the 25th anniversary edition, which is what I have, Lionsgate licensed the German masters to redo it so they could have a better video quality.
Okay.
But that one, for some reason, is edited from the original theatrical run.
Oh.
Yeah. So there was apparently some cursing that was edited out. And in the scan from PLA to the DVD copy, it also messed with the running, the time run. So it's actually 4% faster than the original master is.
Interesting.
Which also meant that the audio pitched up a bit.
You know what? I noticed that.
Yeah.
I noticed a little bit of a higher pitch, and I thought that was just on purpose.
No, it's because this is a bad quality scan.
Okay, so it's fine that we broke it.
So it's fine that we broke it.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah. So there's a Blu-ray edition that came out in 2011 that was sourced from the theatrical cut.
Okay, so we're going to have to watch
which means
that
I'm going to
one.
have to get that one.
All right.
And it'll be a Blu-ray, which means your PS5 probably isn't going to try and
it's
fork
not going to
itself.
try and eat it.
Yeah. So it's the theatrical cut, which also means that the swearing is back in. And here's the thing: I don't remember swearing from when I was a kid. I think it's probably oh crap or whatever, darn. I don't think that they're out here saying holy fuck, it's the Red Bull.
Jesus fucking Christ.
What is this? It's probably rated G. Yeah, it's rated G. I was gonna say if it's PG-13, they get one fuck, and where would you put it in the movie?
Obviously the prince when he's like, I'm gonna fuck that horse.
So then there was one more release in 2015. There was what's called the Enchanted Edition, which is transferred from the original masters 2K digital master and has the uncensored audio as well as commentary by Beagle. So if we get that version,
that would be even better.
Yeah, we could listen to him talk about what he thinks about the movie.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. So my copy now has a bunch of scratches on the back. And as we were trying to figure out how to get this thing out, I was like, don't worry about fucking it up because it turns out there's a different version that I want.
Shitty version anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
what did he think?
When we watch it again, we're gonna watch with the commentary track because I'd love to hear what Beagle has to say about it.
Sure. Yes.
It was very different than I was expecting.
What were you expecting, and what were the differences?
I was expecting it to be. All right. I was not alive in the 80s.
I was alive for 9 months.
Yeah. I was not alive in the 80s, but I've seen stuff from the 80s, especially kids' cartoons and things like that. And they all, and you know, especially like Disney, there's a particular kind of vibe. There's a particular kind of the way the voices sound, the way that the story, the pace that it moves. This felt very different. It was a little more like, the only word I can use is like surreal.
Yes.
You know, like it's not as simple of a plot line as you would expect. There's a lot of fantastical elements, and what I mean by that is that a lot of thoughts that don't follow from like a very like an average person's point of view, you know?
Yeah, there definitely are some gaps, kind of, and like the sort of thing that you would want to fill in because you've read a lot of fairy tales. Hello, hi, I have read a lot of fairy tales.
Yeah. See, that's an interesting thing. You've read a lot of fairy tales, and you know, I've read a lot of fantasy, but all the fantasy I've read is all like, you know, reinterpreted fantasy. It's a lot of like fantasy that was sort of trying to, what's the word that I'm looking for? It was trying to break from old tropes. It was trying to be modern takes on fantasy.
It was responsive.
Yeah.
Like the shitty trailer that we watched at the beginning of the...
Oh, for Happily Never After.
This DVD started up and it immediately started with trailers, which you youngins, you don't know about this. It used to be if you got a VHS from like Blockbuster, or if you just bought a VHS, it would have trailers before the movie started.
Yeah.
And then that transferred to early DVDs. I don't think they do that on Blu-rays. Do they?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So like even on DVDs, you would have like coming soon to a theater near you, and this
it was more common on kids stuff.
Yes.
You know, because like adults, it was much more like, you know what's out there, you're gonna know what, you know. But kids, you were literally trying to sell kids on this idea of this thing.
Yeah, I remember watching like our Disney VHSs and them talking about like whatever next movie was coming out. Yeah.
Interestingly, I once had it was a review copy, I believe, of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 movie on VHS. And what was interesting about that is that the first 40 minutes of the runtime of the tape was advertisements for other, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it was promotions for other things that this company that was releasing the VHS, like other collections of their films. It wasn't a review copy. It was a like it was a promotional copy. Like, this is something they were sending to like a company who wanted to, you know, sell this VHS. It was really interesting because I'd never seen that side of the business before. But yeah, I had that as a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, we saw the Happily Never After trailer.
Yeah.
Which history has rightly forgotten that film.
Oh gosh, that animation is crunchy as hell.
It's not good.
It looks deep fried.
Yeah, and the humor looks terrible.
Awful. And it is like, I remember there were a couple of movies like that were coming out that was like, what if Snow White kicked ass? Or like, what if the actual hero of the story was some schmuck? And so like there were a couple of movies like that, and a lot of them were trying to like emulate Shrek almost.
Yeah, and it was literally the same producer of the first two Shrek films. Yeah.
And you know, what if fairy tale but twisted?
I will say though, what was that one that had the really terrible looking CGI that was Red Riding Hood? Do you remember that one?
Oh god, yeah, Hoodwinked.
Oh,
I can't believe I remember that.
That one was actually pretty good.
I've heard mixed things about that.
That one that one was just sort of like self-aware and it was referential enough that I think it kind of worked. The Happily Never After absolutely did not. It was terrible, even though it had an all-star voice cast. Boy,
yeah.
Just watching the trailer made me cringe. And then speaking of watching a trailer that made me cringe, we saw was it the Dingle Bops or
the Dooley, it was something
Doodle Bobs. I don't know. It was this really weird like three musicians. But
yeah, and so like it's three musicians. They're wearing full costumes and full face paint, and they're each color, like they're color coded.
Yeah,
so there's like a purple one, a blue one, and an orange one. And imagine every color you've ever seen in your life, and now imagine they're screaming at you. That was like, you know when people say that like kids TV shows are not good for kids because it's like too much shit in their face and like it messes with their brains. I'm pretty sure that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Somehow it's live action and animated at the same time because there's no way a human being can actually do those things.
it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah.
And then there was, as a nice palate cleanser, there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trailer.
Yeah.
For the old cartoon, and that sort of like brought us into being able to actually watch The Last Unicorn. Which, as I said, it was a different tone than I was expecting.
Yes.
And you know what? It was very Rankin Bass. It definitely felt much more like, like The Hobbit. Rankin Bass.
Yeah.
It felt much more like an older style of animated film than it did like a 1980s one.
Yeah.
Which I have some experience with.
I've not seen a lot of Rankin Bass, but like now being a little bit more familiar with it than I was as a kid because it was never part of Christmas for me as a child. I can see the stylistic like similarities, especially with when, spoiler alert, the unicorn gets turned into a human, like her face and her eyes specifically, it's very Rankin Bass to me.
Yes, it's very Rankin Bass, but also, there's a little bit of that anime quality, because it was a Japanese studio doing the animation.
Yeah. Yes. So this is another thing that I wanted to talk about, and I was trying to find this information, and I just can't. So in Western animation, it's what's called animated on the twos, which means every 2 frames you're getting a new picture.
Yeah.
And a lot of anime, especially a lot of anime in the 80s, in order to save money, was what's called animated on the 3s. So every 3 frames you're getting a new picture. And I've been trying to find out if The Last Unicorn was animated on the 2s or 3s, but I can't find that information.
Interesting. That would be something that somebody who is like an expert on that would be fascinating.
I'm sure that someone who knows animation can like look at it and just tell me.
Yeah.
But I can't figure it out.
Yeah. I know there were some animes back then, some of the really, really cheap ones. I saw one someone did a video on where it was like animated on the 10s. It was not even like, it was not even it was stuttery.
Oof.
It looked terrible.
Yeah, that sounds bad.
But I guess that was something that would happen from time to time. But yeah, it's a beautiful film. Like,
yes, gorgeous.
Visually, like the colors, very vibrant for Last Unicorn. The characters they all have a very particular look, which is a kind of a thing about classic animation, is they don't look realistic. I mean, some of the characters look more human proportioned and some don't.
Yeah, there are like a couple of little goblin people that it's like you're looking at them and you're like, no, you're meant to be like a gremlin. You're not supposed to be a person.
But that's kind of a common thing with cartoons, is that you want these like very standout silhouettes.
Yes.
You want to be able to see a character, and even if you can't see any details about them, if you see their silhouette,
you know who it is.
You know who it is.
Yeah.
And the movie did a pretty good job, I think, of giving all of the sort of main characters a pretty well-known silhouette. The unicorn, Lady Amathea, even in human form, like, she has this very like regal, flowing kind of thing.
Very willowy, very wispy.
Yeah.
Looks fragile, but like also like solid somehow.
Yeah. Molly has the crazy hair.
God, Molly, I love her so much.
Yeah, she's great. And, Schmendrick is wearing the pointy hat.
Yeah.
He's
got the big billowy arms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, King Haggard. He's got the big beard, and he's very gaunt. Like, everyone's got a very particular look to them.
Mans looks like a skeleton.
He does.
A little bit more than the actual skeleton.
And can I just say once again?
Yeah.
Christopher Lee.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Man, oh, man. He's bringing the heat. Like,
he is.
Everybody else does a fine job. Don't get me wrong. Like, I have no complaints about any of them. I think I said to a certain extent, I don't think Jeff Bridges is bad doing the Prince, but his voice is odd. It sort of doesn't fit. But Christopher Lee, like, nails it and is just laying it on the line. And Christopher Lee, he has a whole career of being the best actor in a terrible film.
Yes.
That is his whole career. He did 50 years of being the best actor in terrible films, all the way up to being in Star Wars. Like, he's so good at that. He's so good. And he gives a fucking hell of a performance.
Even with like lines that aren't that great, because like some of the stuff that he's saying to her at the very top of the tower, like just saying like the line, "Don't you dare deny what you are," like that could be like so like empty or hokey or whatever, but he just like imbues it with like so much feeling and desperation.
I mean, I have heard screenwriters say that the difference between a good and a bad line is if the actor can sell it.
Sure.
And that, as a screenwriter, your job is to sort of make it easier for the actor to sell.
Yeah.
But like, if the actor can sell it,
They can sell it.
they
Yeah.
can sell it, and that it was phenomenal.
Do we want to do like a quick rundown of the storyline? Because it's not that complicated.
Yes, it's not. It's rather simple.
So it opens. And like the first shot are these two hunters going into a forest, and they've got a little dog with them, and they're hunting somewhere. And one of the hunters goes, I don't like this forest because there's a unicorn here, and you'll never find any good hunting in a forest because all of the animals are a little bit magic, and like you just won't be able to find them.
Yeah.
And so then the other guy's like, oh, we should probably go somewhere else then. So they leave, and as he's leaving, he's like, wherever you are, you're the last of your kind. All of the other unicorns are gone. I hope you live out the rest of your life safe here.
Yeah.
And then the unicorn, who throughout, if she's a unicorn, she's just a unicorn. She doesn't have like a name. She's just a unicorn.
Yes.
It's just what she is. The unicorn is like, what are you talking about? There are other unicorns. I can't be the last of my kind. And then my least favorite part of the movie happens, where this fucking butterfly shows up and sings a bunch of nonsense songs.
Yeah.
I hate it. I didn't even like that part as a kid, which I think that it's supposed to be appealing to kids, of like, here's a silly little guy singing a silly little song.
Yeah, I
And
think
I'm
that's...
like, go away.
I remember kind of watching that scene and being like, oh, is this what the movie's going to be like? And kind of being, but I was like, okay, no, this is just a little bit of exposition. We're learning a little bit about the world here.
Not necessarily the call to action, but like, he's giving her the direction. So the butterfly eventually tells, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit in my head.
Yes.
The butterfly eventually tells her that all of the other unicorns have gone. They went down all of the roads, and they were driven there by something called the Red Bull.
Yeah.
And now they're all gone. They got driven to the sea. And so she decides she's going to find them. There's a little, the little bit that I like with the butterfly is that at one point the unicorn says, I shouldn't have expected anything more from butterflies. All they know is to sing songs and recite poetry that they've heard from somewhere else. And that kind of starts the theme of the movie, which is that like you are what you are.
Yeah.
And you should know what you are, and you should embrace what you are, but you are what you are.
Yeah, I think you can kind of make the argument that the theme of the story is sort of saying, one, that you have a true self. You have like a thing that you are, and you should be that. But that also you can change.
Sure, you can change, but to deny what you are is to die.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the unicorn goes out, and she travels for a really long time across like deserts, and through like she goes through like a bunch of different seasons, and eventually she falls asleep on like the side of the road, and there's a woman who comes by who is a witch, and she goes by Mommy Fortuna, which I don't like that they call her Mommy Fortuna. I don't know why. That makes me uncomfy.
Yeah, Lady Fortuna or something.
Or even just like Mother
Fortuna.
Yeah. Or like Ma Fortuna.
I don't know. Yeah. Fortuna is Latin for luck.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she comes by and she's like, haha, I know that this is actually a unicorn. I'm going to kidnap her and put her in my midnight circus. And in the circus, there are a bunch of other like mythical creatures, but all of them are fake except for the unicorn and a harpy. And here's one of the things I didn't remember about this movie: harpy tits.
Yeah.
I did not remember that.
There are absolutely some, not only, okay, we're jumping a little bit ahead. There's harpy tits, but then there's also a tree with boobs.
Oh, yeah, the tree I remembered.
And I am surprised that was allowed.
Yeah. It happens so quick. It's like magic tree with tits, and then it's gone. And then we move on, and we don't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird in like almost a very real fairy tale way, where it's just sort of an odd thing that happens, and it's got this weird connotation, and then you sort of move on, and you sort of go like, wait a minute, what was happening?
Yeah, you meet the singing trout in the stream for a minute, and then you go away.
Yeah.
So at Mama Fortuna's circus, there's her son named Ruck, and then there's also a guy who's he is a magician. He's not a really great magician, but he's like trying to be a really good one.
Yeah.
And that is Schmendrick. And so Schmendrick, like most other people, look at the unicorn and just see like a white horse. But Schmendrick and Mama Fortuna look at her and like, that's a unicorn.
Yes, because they are magic, and they can see things more than a normal person can.
Yes. Schmendrick doesn't like that the unicorn is in a cage, and he's like, you shouldn't be here, like, you need to be out and free, and so he's gonna try and save her. And then, like, there's this whole bit where, like, the harpy, which is the other, like, actual magical creature, is, like, really mad about being in a cage, as I think most things would be.
Sure.
And everyone in this, like, all of the people, Mother Fortuna, Ruck, and Schmendrick, and the unicorn all know that harpy is going to kill Mama Fortuna.
Yeah.
And Mama Fortuna's like, yep, but I'm the one who captured her. And so she, for like the rest of her life, she's going to know that I held her. So I will have won anyway. And I'm like, I don't know that that's true.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from as far as like an idea, but I do think it's interesting that that's sort of her. She's not in very much of the movie, but she's got a very well-developed character.
Right?
You know, you sort of understand her motives, you sort of understand what she means and what she wants pretty easily.
Mama Fortuna, played by Angela Lansbury.
Which is,
I think she was having a great time being like this weird, horrible woman.
I agree completely.
So the Schmendrick sneaks the unicorn out. He tries to magic her out, but he can't do it, so he just uses the key that he had.
Yeah.
And then the unicorn gets everybody else out, including the harpy. And the harpy is going to kill the unicorn, but then sees Mama Fortuna and goes after her instead. And so the unicorn and Schmendrick leave, and the unicorn is like, don't run from an immortal. Never run from an immortal. It will only make them chase you.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting line that she then never implements again.
Yeah, it doesn't ever come back up.
Especially like, okay. I wish that there had been some lines later when she's interacting with the Red Bull of being like, I am compelled to run from it. Like, I know better, but I can't stop myself.
Yeah.
Something like that. Just anything to also be like, you know, like there's some force that is forcing her. Like she is being driven, but she is being forced to run.
Because we find out later that is what happened to all the unicorns. The Red Bull basically chased them into the sea. And, you know, so there's kind of a theme there where it's like, if you run, you know, you're sort of doomed. You have to turn, you have to face this, or you have to not be afraid.
Yeah.
To be brave. It even says in the song at the beginning or whatever, is that you will find the other unicorns if you are brave.
So she and Schmendrick. She and Schmendrick.
I know, it sounds like a fake name.
Yeah, it probably is, honestly.
It sounds like a name you made up, like, oh, my name's Schmendrick.
Yeah. They're on the road, and then they run into like some bandits, kind of
outlaws.
Yeah, but they're called outlaws, but they don't really like threaten them or anything. They're just like, come back to our camp, have some terrible rat soup.
Hey, all the word outlaw means is that you don't live within the bounds of the law.
You know what? Fair enough.
Yeah. You also aren't under the protection of the law either, though.
True. And that is where we meet Molly Grew, who is my favorite character in this movie. I love her so desperately.
Molly Grew is kind of amazing as a character because she is so not a character that you would imagine being in a fantasy book like this.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, she's a middle-aged woman who has already lived her life and lived it hard, and she's gone through tough times, and only now she sees a unicorn, and she's mad. She
has this breakdown where, like, people who like this movie talk about this a lot. She sees the unicorn, and she is so mad. She, like, has this, like, whole meltdown where she's like, where were you when I was new and young? Why have you come to me now that I am this? And it's like heartbreaking.
And that, I think, comes from the traditional belief about a unicorn is that unicorns were drawn to maidens. They were drawn to virgins because you were pure and you were all this kind of stuff. And that, you know, unicorns could tell if you were pure. And so, you know, the idea, and there's, in the previous scene, Captain Cully says, you know, she's got a good heart. Yeah. And I think that was sort of, in a way, kind of telegraphing that she would be important in this story, is that, you know, even though she's kind of world weary, she is good-hearted. She is, you know, pure of heart. She will be accepted by the unicorn.
And she is. Like, even though she's so mad at this unicorn for coming to her now that she is old and, in a gross way, used.
Yes.
the unicorn still nuzzles her and still accepts her. And
she says, "I'm here now.
I'm here now." Yeah. Oh God, it's such a good moment. God, I want to cry.
It is. It's really good. And I would say in general, this movie is a very interesting, maybe this is way I would describe it. This movie is a series of events.
Yes.
It is a series of moments that are kind of unconnected in some ways. It's kind of a journey. They're kind of unconnected. And sometimes they're very loose and you're sort of like, what's going on? Why is it happening this way? But if you sort of take the movie as the moments individually, some of those moments are beautiful. And they have some really interesting things to say about the world that it takes place in and life, and it's beautiful. Don't expect it to like hang together super well though.
Sure. It definitely asks you to make connections that are like not essentially in evidence. Like, you know, they don't come out and say that like Molly Grew somehow met up with these bandits when she was like very young, and she's been running with them for God knows how long. She might be with the guy, Captain, God, what's his name? Captain Cully.
Yeah.
She might be with Captain Cully. She might not. She might have had some other lover. But, you know, the way that she is acting, the way that the words that she uses when she talks in the unicorn, you kind of draw that conclusion.
Yeah.
So Schmendrick knows that the Haggard has the Red Bull, but he's going the wrong way. And Molly Grew is like, I know where Haggard's kingdom is. We got to go this way.
Yeah.
So she joins them. And as they get into his territory, the first night that they're there, the Red Bull appears and starts to chase the unicorn. And Molly and Schmendrick are freaking out because their friend is going to get killed, probably.
Yeah.
And the last unicorn is going to get killed. And
That's bad.
that means that like magic might not be in the world anymore, which would be horrible.
Yeah.
I love this movie, actually. So Molly keeps yelling at Schmendrick, do something.
Yeah.
And so he does. He casts a magic spell on her, and he turns her into a human.
Yeah, turns the unicorn into a human.
And Molly Grew is immediately horrified.
Yeah.
She's like, why did you do this? And he was like, what choice did I have?
Yeah, and the unicorn is also understandably horrified. Yeah.
She is an immortal being of pure magic, and now she is in a body that is dying and decaying around her.
She literally, it's the first thing she says when she becomes human is she is like, I am now, like, she's like, I'm wrapped, like, I can feel this body dying around me.
Yeah.
Which is, like, metal as hell.
Yeah.
And also not what I was expecting out of this freaking movie.
Yeah, I love that when she turned human, Molly Grew was like, you can't do this to her. She'll go insane.
She will. She will lose her mind. She will forget who she is.
And it's one of those things where it's like they didn't explicitly say it. Like they hinted at it. But in the Unicorn Woods, they say that it is always spring, that fall and winter never come.
Yeah.
And that hunters can't hunt there. So it's not like humans can come in and kill anything. And when she leaves, like, there's a bunch of animals that are around her. Her woods are magic. She is magic. She cannot die. And when she's in her woods, she can't be killed.
Yeah.
And so now that she's left, she's vulnerable. And now that she's a human, she can experience death. And not only that, but she's experiencing emotions that she never did as a unicorn.
Yes.
And here's the thing. I like books and movies and TV shows that try and give you a taste of an experience that is other than human.
Yes.
And I think that oftentimes some of them fail because they're written by humans.
Yeah.
And so there's a series that I really like, the October Day series. It's like urban fantasy. It's about fairies. And like, so there are times when October Day is like, I don't understand these humans. They're like means and their compunctions make no sense to me. And like, I don't blame the writer for this because they're fun books to read and I enjoy reading them and I think that they're good. But occasionally I'm like, yeah, but she doesn't have any motives that aren't understandable by humans.
Yeah. I think that the unicorn's mindset from the get-go is very alien to a human mindset.
Yes.
The movie does a really good job, and I'm assuming the book does a really good job of kind of pointing out that the unicorn does not see the world the same way a human does not see itself the same way a human does, and it doesn't have, like, it doesn't love humans, it doesn't hate humans. it just sort of...
It can't experience love, in fact.
Yeah.
They say at the end that she's the only unicorn that has ever loved.
Yeah, the only unicorn who's ever loved or felt regret.
Yeah.
And, not to get too much into my own mentality, but I am death-driven. I am very, I am a person who thinks about mortality a lot and aging and dying, and that's just a thing that is about my personality and about my, sort of mental state all the time. And a lot of the unicorn's experience that we see, especially when she first turns human, is she's now grappling with the idea that she will die, and she's sort of attracted to it. She looks over the cliff down at the rocks. She looks out at the sea, and she's you can tell that she's just sort of thinking about her own end.
Especially because she knows that this is where the thing that drove the rest of the unicorns away, so she shouldn't be here. She should be away where she is safe, but she's staying, and she can't quite figure out why.
Yeah.
So she's human now. They're in Hagrid's lands, and he is the terrible... Hang on. He is the wretched king of a blighted land. He took the throne and he sucked so hard, everything else in the kingdom sucks also. There's no one who lives here. It is King Hagrid, his adopted son Lear, and then he says a couple of guardsmen, and that's it.
Yeah, he's got 4 men-at-arms. We don't ever see any of them.
We don't ever see them.
But there's no farms. This is not a actual kingdom. This is sort of a magical what's the word that I'm looking for? A metaphor.
Yeah.
That this kingdom is what was the way you put it? It was this is a drowned unicorn-based economy.
Oh, yeah. Well, gosh, something terrible happened to my kingdom when I put us on a drowned unicorn-based economy.
Yeah, exactly. That was just sort of how he's that's not, son isn't even mine. Because his whole thing is he doesn't keep anything in his sight that doesn't make him happy, and nothing makes him happy. So literally, everything is bare.
Yeah.
There is nothing on the walls. There's no people in the castle. He keeps a wizard, but he doesn't like the wizard. Doesn't like the wizard.
He immediately dismisses him because it brings him no joy.
Yeah, exactly. And then Vendrick is from Dark Souls 2. Schmendrick comes in. He's just well, maybe you can make me happy. And he seems like he maybe delights a little bit in cruelty.
Yeah.
That seems to be kind of the only thing that gets him off. And again, Christopher Lee. Oh my God.
So good.
Jeez Louise. Christopher Lee.
So Lear, his son, he literally says, oh, that's not even my son. I found him on a doorstep one day and I was like, hey, maybe this will bring me joy. But even that shine worn off after a while.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care about this guy. And I don't think that Lear has any love for him either, because he's he does what his dad says, but he never talks about having any ambition to rule the kingdom after him, or
no.
He wants to be a hero, but that's the vaguest amount of plan that he has.
Yeah, what does being a hero mean,
So they kind of just hang out in the castle for a while, and Lear falls in love with Amalthea. And Amalthea kind of falls in love back with him as she starts to experience being human more.
Yeah, and there's a kind of an interesting dichotomy there where it's when she remembers being a unicorn, she doesn't care about Lear. But when she is experiencing humanity, she loves Lear.
Yeah.
And it's this very interesting kind of thing where, as an audience, we sort of expect, we want our beautiful woman character to fall in love with the handsome prince and live happily ever after. That is the classic fantasy trope.
Right.
But in this case, we're no, we don't want her to fall in love with him. We don't want the hero prince to get the girl. We want her to become a unicorn again and run away. And it's a kind of an interesting tension there.
Yeah. When we were talking about this initially, you said, isn't this a sad movie? And I was like, I think bittersweet is the best that it ever gets.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know why, but through cultural osmosis, I always thought that the unicorn died at the end.
Interesting.
Yeah, I always assumed that it was the last unicorn, and that the ending of the last unicorn would be that the unicorn dies.
That's a lot darker.
Well, Yes, but that was what I thought the movie was about. I thought the movie was about the dying of magic and like, you know, and it was going to be like a metaphor about youth or innocence and all that kind of stuff, which it sort of is.
Yes.
But it's not presented in the way that I thought it was.
I remembered, or at least I thought that the other unicorns could not come back out of the ocean. I thought for some reason she continued being the last unicorn. I didn't remember them all coming out and like returning to the land and like returning magic to the land.
Sure.
I remembered her like looking out and being like, you know, sad that they'll never really come back, but like she is the last unicorn and she has to return to her home. That's not what happens.
And what's interesting to me too is that she's glad that unicorns are back.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know any of them. They're not her friends.
Yeah, she never goes and hangs out. They never have like unicorn congress or whatever.
And the unicorns never say thank you. They're never like, hey, great job bringing us back. They just leave. They just walk away.
It's not even like the unicorns can like tell her story in like unicorn times because unicorns don't have names. So like they can't be like, oh yes, do you remember the great meh? Nope, no we don't, because she doesn't have a name.
Interesting.
So yeah, anyway, they get there, they're trying to find where the Red Bull is. They just kind of fuck around in the castle for a while.
They should check the fridge.
They should check the fridge.
And then dump it out because it sucks.
Lady Amathea and Lear both sing really bad songs. Most of the music in this movie is really good when it's sung by America the band. These two songs, not good.
Yeah, there are a few songs in the story, and some of them are pretty good. You know, but a few of the character songs don't land very well.
I a little bit think that, like, you know, it's just they were like Rankin Bass, and like, you know, one of the things that they did is like their characters would sing songs.
Yeah.
And it was also like, it's a thing. You got a princess movie, the princess sings a song.
I mean, there was a time, I don't know if people kind of feel that way anymore, and I would even argue that, you know, it's probably been this way for like 25, 30 years, but there was a time when it was like, well, if there's a kids movie, it has to have songs.
Yeah.
Because kids want to hear songs.
Yeah.
I don't know when the wisdom on that changed, and I certainly don't think it's true, but I think that there was a time when people really felt that way.
Yes, I would agree. But eventually they do, like, there's just this bit where this cat comes in and
the
tells
cat's
them,
awesome.
The cat, like, gives them this riddle, and the cat is so good. I remembered the cat. I thought the cat played a bigger role.
The cat is a pirate.
The cat is a pirate.
He's got a peg leg and an eye patch, and they ask him for help, and the cat gives them help, but it's in a riddle that they don't exactly know how to figure out. And the cat says, like, I would love to tell you what you want to know, but I'm a cat, and I can't give you a straight answer.
No cat can go against their nature.
Exactly. Again, very similar to the theme of, like, you know, what you are, and that's really interesting.
Yeah, but he gives them this riddle and they figure it out. There's a skull that they have to go talk to at a particular time, and the skull's going to tell them the way.
The skeleton trying to get drunk is very funny.
So that is Rene. I cannot pronounce his last name.
That's Rene Aubergenois.
Yes, it is.
Oh, Mr. Odo.
I wanted to know if you had like figured out who he was in the movie.
I was thinking about who it was, and I thought that it was probably the skeleton.
Yeah,
but I wasn't sure because Rene Aubergenois, he's I don't know if he's from France, but he is French.
Sure.
You know, and he can. Sometimes he has a little bit of an accent, but sometimes he doesn't because he can do a lot of voice stuff.
Yes.
And I was maybe expecting some character to have kind of an accent, and there never was. So I was like, I'm not entirely sure.
Molly Grew is my favorite character. I think the skull was my favorite part because he's just like he's just having a little bit of fun fucking with them a little bit.
Yeah. I love the animation of that skeleton.
It's
too.
really good. Yeah.
It's very expressive for a skull.
Yes.
I wonder, because the animation studio that did it was Japanese, I wonder if they were inspired by the, I'm going to say this wrong, the Gashadokuro, I believe is what it's called. Basically a monster from Japanese mythology. It's a giant, like, skeleton. Yeah, they're very freaky looking. I saw some when I was in London at the British Museum. I saw some like, I don't know if they were woodcuts or you know, paintings or whatever of them, and they're very freaky, and it's a, you know, kind of a spooky monster from Japanese mythology.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of that, especially like the the way they kind of like hunch over.
Yes.
They're kind of in a weird position, and the way that skeleton was like hunched over on top of the thing kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that because he is kind of just like a pile of bones with a skull and an arm, and like it's just the one arm too, and it's like a very like articulated arm with like very creepy fingies.
Very realistic.
Yes.
Yeah, like the hand bones are like real hand bones.
Yeah. But anyway, he tells them how to get to the Red Bull in exchange for them giving him wine.
But they don't actually give him wine.
They don't actually give him wine.
They give him the idea of wine.
Yeah. And then he gets drunk on the idea of wine, and then his cheekbones get rosy, and it's a little bit cute.
It's very cute. I love it.
So he's like, oh, you have to go through the clock to get to the Red Bull. And so they go through the clock. The skeleton is like, wait, you can't be doing that. The unicorn can't get away. And so he calls for King Haggard. And King Haggard's like, what? And it's the middle of the night, and he is all dressed up in his armor.
Yeah.
And he runs downstairs, and he starts attacking them. Molly and Amalthea run through the clock to try and find this bull, and Schmendrick like fucks around with the king, just kind of like running from him a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he also goes, and then the king like knocks the clock over, so they're trapped down there with the bull.
Yes.
They can't go back. They have to find the way out. Now is like, Lear also shows up because he's like, I was following you because I love you. And she's like, oh, I love you too. I don't want to be a unicorn anymore.
He kind of comes out of nowhere.
He kind of does.
I was a little shocked that we didn't at least see a clip of him running into the clock.
Yeah.
For a minute I thought they were misdirecting us, that he was some kind of like illusion.
Oh, really?
Because the fact that he's just there when they go through was like, what? Huh?
Yeah, so Amalthea is like, I don't want to be a unicorn anymore because it means that I won't love you. I want to love you. I want to be human with you and I want to die with you. And he's like, I want that too, but like we can't do that. You're a unicorn. You have to be a unicorn.
Yeah, and that's another kind of subversion of a classic trope. Like the prince loves the lady, but he also understands that like, no, it's better that you're not with me.
Yeah.
It's better that you return to your true self because that's how it should be.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting thing too.
Yeah. And so Schmendrick turns her back into a unicorn. There might be it in the book. It might not just have translated more, but like I kind of wish that they had done more about like how Schmendrick's powers work and why he can't turn her back into a unicorn immediately.
Yeah.
Although also if they had just said like, hey, it's a bad idea for us to turn you back into a unicorn right now because the Red Bull is going to come back.
They did say that a few times.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the movie, I think the way that it sort of talks about Schmendrick's powers is that he sort of doesn't have full control.
Yes.
That magic sort of does what it wants, and that he just sort of, like, pushes it in the right direction.
That's true. His incantation is magic, do what you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he turns her back into a unicorn, and then, like, she has to face down the bull, and she is brave. She doesn't run from it.
Yeah.
Which means that she can turn it back to the ocean, where all of the unicorns are trapped. And so she pushes it into the ocean, and then all of the unicorns like ride up on the waves. And this is a scene that like to this day gives me goosebumps.
It's a really cool visual.
Yeah. All of the unicorns riding up on the crest, like the foam of the wave, and then like crashing down on the Red Bull and like basically stomping it out into the ocean. So the Red Bull is defeated. All of the unicorns can now leave the ocean because the threat is not against them anymore.
Yeah.
And they do. They flood up the beach and then up the castle, and then they break the castle with like the thunder of their hoofs. This crazy like salt-worn stone castle that is like one very precarious spire completely falls over into the ocean.
Yeah, you mentioned how the castle looks like a rock on the ocean, that it's like the waves and the salt are like lapping up against it, so it's like pitted and kind of like really worn.
Yeah. Oh, it looks so cool.
And all the walls have like faces on them.
God, that's so creepy.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So all of the unicorns are freed. The unicorn, our main character unicorn, says basically goodbye to everybody and just like leaves and goes back to her forest.
Yeah.
And then there's like one more scene where like Molly and Schmendrick are talking to Lear, and he's like, I'm a better person because of this. Goodbye now. And they also leave. And like Molly and Schmendrick are like off on other adventures, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the unicorn's going home.
Mm-hmm.
Bittersweet.
It is, and the sort of end credits sort of track the path that the unicorn took to get where she is now.
Yeah,
and it sort of ends on the hill with the moon that we saw her at the very beginning, but you know she's not there yet because she hasn't
Yeah,
gone
she
back
hasn't made
home.
that. Yeah.
And it's a very, I'm gonna use the word beautiful again. It is beautiful. There is a lot of touching character moments and ideas there. Visuals are stunning. Some of the music is really good. In fact, I would say all of the music is really good. Some of the lyrics and vocals are maybe not as good.
Yeah.
But all the music is really good. It's just it's very odd. It's not what I was expecting at all. And almost the way that I would put it is it's obviously not made. It's not Japanese. It's Japanese animated, but it's not Japanese. It's not Eastern. But it also doesn't feel Western.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel European or American. It's very different. I don't even know how to describe it.
It's definitely something you kind of have to experience for yourself.
Unique. It's
unique.
Very
yes.
unique, and I don't think that at all you can overstate that. It does not feel or look or sound like any other movie I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of cartoons. I've seen a lot of fantasy movies. It's its own thing entirely.
I super recommend it. Get a Blu-ray. Get the Enchanted edition. Don't get the 2011 edition that doesn't have cursing in it. I gotta get a new one to see what the differences are.
Yeah, like I said, I want to watch it with the commentary.
Yes, I would love to do that as well.
Because that seems like that would be the way to go. So is that everything?
That's all I've got.
Wow. Oh, I guess one last thing. We were kind of talking about the music. You said the London Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, yeah. So it was all of the music was So yeah, the musicals, the score and the songs were composed by Jimmy Webb.
Yeah.
And then like most of the songs were performed by America, and then also the London Symphony Orchestra.
That's a really interesting. It's America and the London Symphony Orchestra. That's a fascinating thing.
America, the band, is made up of British and American musicians.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
And then so this also has with additional vocals provided by Lucy Mitchell.
Okay, interesting.
Which we think, so like there's the one song that Mia Farrow sings as Amalthea that is not great, and then there's a duet between her and Lear, who is Jeff Bridges.
And it's obvious that it's Jeff Bridges singing it, but there's another voice singing the Lady Amalthea's parts. And I looked up the album, and apparently someone on the album, it's a different voice, but I don't know if that's the same person who sang for the movie.
So this is also kind of interesting. So like they made an album of the soundtrack. Like
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So the soundtrack album that was released in Germany, but it was never released in America.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's just weird. It's just there's a lot of like strange things about this movie that just kind of they're just bits that don't really fit anywhere.
Obviously, this movie was not so much a big box office smash. It was much more of a VHS kids watched it later on.
Yeah, no.
Was it successful?
No, this was a flop when it first came out.
That's kind of what I thought. I thought it was sort of like a cult film, that it sort of took years for kids to watch it in the secondhand the market in video and TV, to kind of have it become the classic that it is now.
So it was considered a commercial failure, and it grossed $6.5 million in the United States.
If it grossed $6.5 million, it probably cost a couple million to make, so it probably didn't make much money, if anything.
Yeah, so it was considered a flop, and it very much was a cult classic.
Yeah.
And that it did better in VHS. It certainly did better for me and my sisters in VHS. We rented it multiple times.
Well, everyone I've ever heard talk about it says that they watched it at home on VHS.
Yeah.
I've never heard someone say that they saw it in theaters.
Well, I mean, it came out in 1982, so.
Sure, but even I know people who are old enough to have seen it in theaters.
Fair.
Yeah.
I was trying to see if I could find a budget for the movie. I can't find one.
Yeah, this reminds me of a story about why movie studios nowadays don't make they don't take chances on films. Because back in the old days, even if you didn't make your money back in the box office, there was a possibility that in the secondhand market, in the the rentals and TV and stuff, you could over time make back that money. You could, and there were lots of films that did not make a lot of money in the theaters, that were not very successful initially, that did eventually kind of become classics later on down the line. And, that market doesn't really exist anymore. stuff gets dumped on streaming and then you never see it again because the money, the revenue sharing from streaming doesn't work the same way that it did. The Last Unicorn couldn't be made today.
No, absolutely not.
And that's sad.
I mean, the last big animated movie that Disney did, I think, was Wish, which nobody saw. I'm sorry. Moana. Moana made a bunch of money, but before that, they tried to do like a new IP where they did Wish, and nobody saw.
Wish came out way after Moana, Hannah.
No, Moana 2.
Oh, you said Moana 2. Sorry.
Yes. But like nobody saw it and nobody cared about it, and there are allegations that there was AI that was used in like some of the storytelling and definitely some of the music because a lot of the music doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
It's very frustrating. But if you want to watch this, it's currently streaming on Peacock, Tubi, Fandango, Plex, and Amazon Prime. I would encourage you, buy a physical copy, because if you watch it on any of those, they're not going to tell you which edition you're watching.
Also, fuck Amazon.
Also, fuck all of those guys. Buy physical media.
Fuck all of them, but especially fuck Amazon.
Sure, fuck Amazon.
Yeah. Buy the physical media. Don't order it through Amazon.
Don't order it through Amazon, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So.
I'm going to go to Half Price Books and see if I can pick up a copy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. Well, hey,
that's
Hannah,
all I got.
Thank you very much for sharing this one.
I'm glad that you watched it with me.
Yeah.
Again, it's like I haven't watched this movie since I was a kid, and like I'm in my head. It's like
in your head.
Stop it. In my head, she talks to the butterfly. She meets. She gets caught by the circus and meets Schmendrick. The tree thing happens. They meet Molly Grew. And then nothing, and then the unicorns come out of the sea. Like, that's what I remembered from this movie.
That's kind of how it is when you're a kid.
Yeah.
You don't care about. I have noticed this about kids' movies. When you're a kid, third acts don't happen.
No.
Because a lot of times, I don't know if you were like this, but I was the kind of kid who would put a movie on and then fall asleep halfway through. So, like, you don't watch the whole movie.
I watched the first Star Wars like 8 times before I finally finished it because my parents would put it on as we were going to sleep at my friend's house. Mm-hmm. And here's a kind of a funny thing. I watched Star Wars several times before actually seeing it all the way through because my parents would put it on before we would go to sleep at my friend's house. And I actually thought that the theme song for 20th Century Fox was part of the Star Wars music instead of like just its own theme.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes sense because it kind of has that feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Thank you for watching this movie from my childhood with me.
Of course.
I've got to go buy a new copy, which I was planning on doing anyway, so.
Yeah, all right. Well, hopefully next fucking movie doesn't break my PS5.
I think we should try and stick to only Blu-rays because I think it might be a DVD problem.
I don't know about that for sure, but you might be right.
I mean, I've got like my PS2 and I know that plays DVDs, so.
That's true. I have been Donovan.
I've been Hannah. I will continue to be.
Maybe.
I may change, but I won't deny myself.
Oh. Cool. Interesting.
Yeah.
And this has been My Thing, Your Thing.
Go buy physical media. We love you.
Yeah.
Fuck Amazon.
We, unlike unicorns, can experience love.
Yeah.
And regret all the time. Fuck. All right. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. You can find us at mythingyourthing.com or at mythingyourthingpod on social media. Thanks to RK Maroon for letting us use their song Macaroni Art from the EP You Can't Eat Horses. You can get it at rkmaroon.bandcamp.com. If you have a thing you think we should talk about, email us at mythingyourthingpod@gmail.com, and maybe that could be our thing.